afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to Cronkite Sports Live. Brett Deckert with you, back for an unprecedented third term at the anchor desk. I'll be occupying this seat every other week for the next 3 months. To my left, the entire way, will be this man, Jason Chesler.
And you know, Brett, I've always been a bit of a bit player here at the anchor desk, but much like Topanga on season 1 of Boy Meets World, you, the fans, demanded more of me, so now I'm here full time.
It's weird that you just say that because now I just think of you as like the male version in real life of Topanga.
I really see you as a Corey Matthews, actually, Brett.
That's scary. Let's not think of that ever again. An equally scary thought may come to mind when you realize who the ASU men's basketball team has lined up for a date this Saturday. And as far as love stories go, this one will be nothing like Corey and Topanga. The 6th-ranked Arizona Wildcats will bear on down to Tempe Saturday. The setting won't be quite as romantic as last year's battle between these two teams at Wells Fargo Arena when, on Valentine's Day, in double overtime, Jordan Baczynski made the greatest block of his life. Jahi Carson dunked and hung on the rim for a couple of days. Every student in Wells Fargo Arena rushed the court while there was still half a second left on the clock. This all before the Wildcats launched an unsuccessful three-pointer at the actual final buzzer. The Sun Devils came away winners over the then second-ranked team in the country, and every student in Wells Fargo Arena rushed the court once again. Now, last year's result may come and give some Sun Devil diehards hope for Saturday's sold-out showdown. Whether that hope is justified is a question only our best can answer. We couldn't get our best, though, so we have instead these guys, our men's basketball analysts, Cameron Neely and Zane Hopen, there with Jason Chesler.
Yes, certainly not our best here, Brett. You're very right.
There.
ASU men's basketball, they're not really the best either, guys. Let's face it, they're kind of bad this year. However, there's got to be hope, right? Last year's team, also pretty bad. Last year's team knocked off the Wildcats. Can this year's team do it again? Another miracle at Wells Fargo Arena.
That's what everybody is seeming to think. Oh, last year they were a bad team. Oh, this year they're a bad team, as you said. But it's much different. Jahi Carson, much more experienced point guard. Jermaine Marshall, he is in Italy now, Jason. He's not walking through that door. He had 29 points in the last game, so it's a much different situation.
And again, last year's team did end up making the NCAA tournament, and I think it would be a miracle if this team found its way back into the top 65 teams in the country. But even opposed to that, this team is completely different from the last time they played the University of Arizona. They had Jerry Blake starting at point guard. Savon Goodwin was just getting fresh into the rotation, and they had Cody Justice to back up Trey Holder and Jerry Blakes, but as we know, he's gone for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and Joey has a graphic for us, as you mentioned, Zane. All the things that went wrong in last game. You see there an abysmal shooting stretch from the field for ASU. 14 of 43 shots. You mentioned Jerry Blakes. He was really a big part of the offense, and you see how minimal he was, leading the team with 9 points. You see how U of A stretched out their scoring through their team, as you would like to do. And then you mentioned Trey Holder, who has played pretty well as of late. But in that game, he only played 12 minutes. Don't get me started. I could sing the sorrows just mourning the loss of Cody Justice, but it's the Trey Holder show now. And we kind of talked about it, Zach Pocklip and I talked about it as well, that it's him leading the charge.
Yeah, and I got to talk to Trey this week after practice, and he was getting up shots after everyone except for Chance Murray and Jerry Blakes, and he's ready to take it on. I asked him if he was willing to play 42 minutes a game, and he gave me a little laugh because that's a little too much to ask of your freshman point guard especially, but his minutes have doubled in the last 2 games especially. His assist count's up, his scoring's up. He's ready to take this on and lead this team on against their in-state rival.
So if Trey Holder's going to take all these extra minutes, take over the Jahi Carson role, he's got to really level up his Twitter game, guys. Real quick, as we view this beautiful B-roll before we send things back to Brett, I've got a real quick question for you. I'm not going to ask you if they will win, if they will knock off U of A. I'm going to ask you if it's possible. Can the Sun Devils upset the Wildcats once again?
Can they? Yes. Will they? I don't think so. With the whole Pac-12 After Dark thing, although it's going to be Pac-12 in the afternoon. I don't know what the hashtag would be for that. But I don't think it's going to happen. No. They don't have enough scoring. If Trey Holder pulls out the same thing they did against Oregon, where he encourages the offense to move around inside the three-point line and get some off-ball movement, possibly, but I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Yeah, again, Arizona State is 2-0 this season when Gilling and Barnes each make 4 threes at least combined, and McKissick is in double figures. They've got 2 wins, and that's the only 2 times they've done it. So, I mean, if they can get everything to work together and Holder can play his best game of the season, it could happen. But, again, this is Arizona we're talking about, and I don't see it happening.
You know, guys, very pessimistic from both of you. I'm an optimist. I love this Sun Devil men's team, so I'm going to go with no. Yeah. Brett, save us from this mediocrity, please.
Well, now to one of ASU's best teams. Gone, though, is Dallas Escobedo and Mackenzie Popescu. In, Brianna Maha and Dale Rindak. The two of them faced off last night as true freshmen on the mound to kick off a doubleheader for ASU's season in Craig Nicholson's second season as head skipper for the Sun Devils. We're going to head out to Farrington now, hit the highlights, and it's bottom one right away. Amber Freeman, her first hit of the day. She had 6. Sarah Rodriguez scores right there. Bree McMahon, the catcher, can't handle it. We're going to go bottom 4 and a mound visit here, and something just didn't go right because with a 3-0 count and Haley Steele up with 2 on and Amber Freeman on deck, you think they would just let her on. But instead, Sydney Eck, the pitcher for the Creighton Blue Jays, decides to toss one right down the pipe, and you see where that goes. Over the fence, way out of there. That's a 3-run home run, extending the lead to 5-1. They'd go on to win 7-4 in the first game. Hey, number 2 right here, the second game of the night, 0-0, and it's Bethany Kemp taking in a huge breath and then a huge swing all the way out to left center field, a home run, and then right on the very next pitch, Katie Aguirre does the same. Home run to right center field, back-to-back homers, 2-0 ASU. They go on to win that one as well. But first, we're going to show you a flurry of strikeouts. We can't forget about the pitching we mentioned before. This was Maha. She got the victory. 6 innings, 0 runs, 8 strikeouts. She celebrates after with her team, the true freshman, in her first game as a Sun Devil. Both the freshman pitchers coming away with the victories. Dominic Cotronio and Carrie Crowley were on the call last night, 2 WCSNers themselves. We had them talk after the game about what they saw. Guys, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Live here at Farrington Stadium after a pair of Sun Devil victories. First 7-4 over the Creighton Blue Jays, and then also a 6-0 shutout over the Western Michigan Broncos with Carrie Crowley. I'm Dominic Cotronio. Now, Carrie, we saw a pair of debuts tonight, first from Dale Rindak and then Brianna Maha. What caught your eye from both of them?
Well, Dale Rindak is the proverbial power pitcher, and she took the ball in game 1, and she trusted her stuff from the first pitch of the ball game, and that's something you're excited to see if you're head coach Craig Nicholson, because you're going to ask her to labor this season at times, and she did so tonight. She threw over 100 pitches through 6 2/3 innings, and she proved she could get the tough outs. And then Brianna Maha, what impressed me the most was her knowledge in the circle, her pitching sequences. She had hitters off balance all night, and you saw a savviness that you rarely see out of freshman pitchers. It was really a special debut for her.
A little benchmark for you. Dallas Escobedo in her debut went 3 innings and had 4 strikeouts. Each of these pitchers went over 6 innings and had at least 7 strikeouts each. So I think they're in pretty good hands right now as they move forward. But now we go to the offense, the other side. Amber Freeman, 8 plate appearances, 8 times on base. What is going on with her? How is she seeing the ball like it's a grapefruit?
Well, I talked with Amber post-game, and what she said was she's really comfortable going the other way right now. And that made such a difference tonight against pitchers from Creighton and Western Michigan who were intentionally attacking part of the plate against Freeman. She just went with it the other night. She got bat on ball, and that makes all the difference because she generates such power with her hips, and she moves through the zone. Amber Freeman is a dynamic hitter, and we could see an exceptional season from her.
She had a couple of RBIs. Don't forget Haley Steele's 3-run home run in the first game, a pair of home runs also in the second game as well for ASU. The offense is there. The pitching is there. The season has just begun for the Maroon and Gold as they're right back out here tonight against Ole Miss as well. So with Carrie Crowley, I'm Dominic Cotronio. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Keeping with softball for another minute here, we had a team out at Media Day prior to the start of the season a couple weeks ago, and we spoke with senior catcher Amber Freeman, and we threw her into our first edition of what we're calling the Ring of Fire.
Now, these are going to go rapid fire here.
Okay.
So whatever first thing comes into mind, give it to us, and we'll have some fun with
I
it.
hope I have some good answers. Oregano stew. On to the next one, Jay-Z. Bye. Happy Spiel. Oh my gosh, I would say Seychelles Plasios. Dale Rindak.
Oh, no.
Stanford.
And who on
Wait,
the team?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. Oh, there you go.
Oklahoma City, yeah, Oklahoma City. Chelsea Gonzalez.
Can you grab her and can we demonstrate it real
She's
quick?
actually getting Chelsea. They want to see our new handshake this year. They said favorite handshake. I said yes. 5 seconds. Ready? 1, 2.
Where'd that come from?
It was on a Vine. 2 basketball players, like NBA players, I think, did it. They did it, and then as their pregame, and then she sent it to me, and I was like, oh, we're doing that for sure.
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
I think
It's gonna be a funny one.
Team, and hey, thank you, Amber. Now we shift from a new segment to an old favorite that's near and dear to my heart, at least. That's right, it's time for Tweets of the Week, my old stomping ground. Now my friend and fellow tribesman Gavin Shaw is here to analyze Sun Devil social media. Gavin, I don't care what they told you at your bar mitzvah. Today is the day that you really become a man.
Well, guys, Wednesday marked college football's National Signing Day, and perhaps the only thing more ridiculous than recruiting is the tools we use for it, and that is social media. Whether it's Todd Graham tweeting out an enthusiastic boom every time an 18-year-old agrees to play for his football institution, or if it's a recruit committing via rap lyrics. And yet, perhaps the only thing more absurd than everything else I previously mentioned is the rules governing recruiting. Fun fact, college football fans, every time you tweet at your favorite recruit to come to your school, you are committing an NCAA violation, and yet no one can actually enforce that. Coaches are allowed to direct message players on Twitter, but they can't tweet about them publicly. The whole thing is kind of confusing and really weird. For all I know, I'm committing a big NCAA violation right now. I'll apologize preemptively to Coach Todd Graham if he loses scholarships over this. But when we're delving into the realm of absurdity, we might as well embrace it. Guys, it's time for Cronkite Sports Live, Tweets of the Week. Let's start it off with college football. JoJo Wicker reminds me of Will Sutton, except he's 6'4", said Coach Todd Graham. Arizona State fans will remember Sutton fondly as a 2-time All-American and a 2-time Pac-12 Player of the Year. But guys, the really scary thing is here, if this guy's bigger than Will Sutton, how much cereal is he going to eat?
Gavin, that's how I know I used to have your job. I was thinking the exact same joke. I'm speechless now. That's an exceptional amount of cereal. The entire General Mills aisle is just done.
That's how I know I used to have both your jobs. I was the first, I think, and now I know why I just don't do it at all, because I had nothing to say. So you guys are both better at this than I am.
Guys, I just hope they play it safe and switch away from Adidas and just go to General Mills as a full-time sponsor.
I agree entirely.
He needs a lot of cereal to fuel him. Let's move on to the next tweet. Sticking in the realm of recruiting, it's not all college football players. Arizona State was recruiting Jimmy Fallon to come perform or just say hi to them, and then he was there. But then he wasn't. Arizona State fans and students went to Old Main, and they didn't find Jimmy there.
It can't be real. I just don't think it could be photoshopped. From what I'm seeing on screen right now, it looks a little bit photoshopped. Like there's some light around him. How can that be real? Because nobody would not see him at Old Main, right? There'd be other pictures. There'd be other things. Jimmy, I don't like that. You're lying to us, man.
Guys, you know, when they're doing a nighttime show, the background where you see New York City in the background, that's fake. They tape these shows in the afternoon.
Yeah.
If you think Jimmy Fallon is ever where he says he is when he says it, you're delusional. He's not.
And of all people, Jimmy, we can't trust this guy.
No.
Guys, I have an anecdote confirming that. When I was in the hellscape known as New York during Cronkite Sports Live offseason, I went to go see Jimmy Fallon, and after waiting outside for 14 hours, they decided they weren't going to have a show today. Jimmy Fallon just has it out for Arizona State students.
Wow.
I don't know. It was trouble.
Some
Let's move on to
negative
that
media
third and
here for
final
Jimmy
tweet.
Fallon.
This guy, Soso Jamitchell, otherwise known as Soso Jamobo, he didn't commit to Arizona State, but he was recruited by Arizona State, and this is how he committed. Asian girls everywhere, UCLA. Famous Childish Gambino lyrics. What do you guys make out of that?
I have no idea. I know Childish Gambino, but I don't listen to him. So I'm more of a Donald Glover fan than I am a Childish Gambino fan.
His alternate persona.
He's balling each and every day, Gavin. The Sun Devils can't compete with that. Todd Graham, you need some better recruiting tools.
Guys, what was Childish Gambino's last album? Because the internet. We do this segment because of the internet. That's all I have for you guys. Thanks so much for having me on.
I didn't get that for a second there.
Impressive stuff from Gavin. I'm happy. Now here's a public service announcement for our bandwagon fans out there. I'm not judging, just saying. ASU women's basketball is incredibly good. The Sun Devils are ranked in the top 10, and they have a good old-fashioned Pac-12 showdown with Stanford this weekend. Now, here to say smart things that you can repeat while watching the game is our very own Elaine Wilson.
Thank you, Elaine, for joining us once again. Here are our analyst for women's college basketball. I say
goodness.
ESPN because earlier this week, ESPNW gave their Coach of the Year award at the halfway point to none other than Charlie Turner-Thorne. That just goes to say more about this team so far through this season that has been pretty dominant, something we might not have even expected, so consistent all year long. But what has it been of late that has been keeping them going?
You know, I'm all about Katie Hempen. I think she's got a swagger on the court. We compare her a lot to Kobe Bryant in our meetings. She's just really confident in what she does. She's hitting those three-pointers consistently. She's already passed her scoring this year from past season. So she's just doing great. Now she's trying to step up on the defensive side. So I think she'll be really important for this. And now she's working on her defense, you know, working for this Stanford game. So she had a lot to say about her career-high 22 points against OSU. They still lost that game. So here's what she had to say in that press conference.
So I started liking basketball when
I just keep shooting no matter what. Mr. Make, it's probably going up, and my team realizes that. So they're always rebounding for me, and that's probably why I shoot so much, is because they have confidence in me and I have confidence in them that they can get the rebound or that we'll get another possession. So well, that's what some Devils do. We don't give up till the last buzzer.
And her hitting those high points, you know, she's really working on the rest of her game. She's working on being one of those all-around players for this team, and I expect her to step up for the Stanford game.
Well, if she's going to step up for the Stanford game, they could use her. But we're going to go back first to earlier on in the season when a milestone win came for the Sun Devils. They won at Maples Pavilion over Stanford for the first time since 1984. Coach Turner-Thorne played on that 84 team for the Sun Devils. She called that game earlier in the season, checked off her list. It was important to her and this team. What happened in that game that allowed them to get such a marquee victory?
Well, I think it's important to note that this wasn't one game. It was definitely two games. It was the first half and the second half for them. In the first half, they went up by 17 points going into halftime. You know, they had a great first half. They held off the defense in the paint. It was really good for them. And then in the second half, honestly, ASU should have lost this one just because of the way that the Stanford Cardinal came back. You know, they came back fighting. So, I mean, this game was really important to their history, but I don't know if they could have really pulled it off in the end. Thankfully they did, you know, with that first half, but it was a hard one.
If anything, it could just be a testament to the preparation of this team and a win they need in the season, just toughing it out. And it's been 30 years, so I guess they were due in that setting anyway. In that game, they were the 13th ranked team. Stanford was number 12. It's a little switch now. ASU's now the higher ranked team, number 10. Stanford, number 12. What's going to happen tonight?
Well, actually, it's funny because I have my notes that I wrote on Wednesday, and I said, you know, ASU's bitter. They're ready for another big win against the Cardinal. And 2 days later, I'm saying I don't think they're going to pull it off.
It is funny.
I know. It's kind of crazy. It's just two really closely, like, they're well matched up together.
Absolutely.
And I think Stanford's going to be the more bitter team coming into Tempe, trying to upset the ASU Sun Devils at home like they did in Maples Pavilion. They want some revenge. So I don't think it's anything that like ASU is going to do wrong necessarily. I just think Stanford's going to come out fighting.
All right, Elaine Wilson going out on a limb, taking the side of the Cardinal in this one. Not declaring a winner or loser, but saying the rankings, they're very close, and it's going to be a very close matchup on the court. Well, thanks for joining us once again, Elaine. We're going to go back to Jason on the other side of the desk.
Thanks a lot, Brett. Now, tough, gritty, scary. These are great words to describe a baseball team. Not so great when they're used to describe a baseball stadium. The Sun Devils are thankfully saying goodbye to Packard Stadium and will to their new home this season. Our very own Jake Garcia has more.
Exactly 1 week separates now and the start of the 2015 ASU baseball season, and already storylines are plentiful. Tim Esme resigned at the end of last season, which resulted in a coaching staff overhaul from top to bottom. Pitching coach Brandon Higelin was brought in to work with the star-studded staff, and hitting coach Ben Greenspan is seeking to improve the bats. But the biggest hire for ASU baseball comes in the form of the 2013 National Coach of the Year. His name, Tracy Smith.
As far as the new coaching staff, and you know, we're trying to come in and put our own stamp on things, but it's still baseball, and I think the guys have done a really good job of buying into what we're trying to teach them.
2015 will also represent the second straight season which the Sun Devils Stadium is the topic of conversation. Last year, it was the closing of Packard Stadium, a ceremonious moment which saw ASU notch its 52nd straight 30-win season. This year, a new era of Sun Devil baseball will begin at Phoenix Muni.
Leaving Packard is tough just because of the legacy and the history there, but coming here, this is, as you can see, just an awesome ballpark. Everything's been renovated. There's ASU colors everywhere. The playing surface is awesome, so we're lucky to be able to play here.
The 24th ranked Sun Devils will have 18 straight games to break in their new stadium, the first of which will be a 3-game series against the 12th ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys. At Phoenix Municipal Stadium for Cronkite Sports, I'm Jake Garcia.
Thanks a lot, Jake. Now, earlier in the show, we heard from Amber Freeman on who her favorite freshman was. I don't pick favorites, but if I did, I'd be hard-pressed to find a freshman here at WCSN that I'm more fond of than ASU hockey intermission reporter and analyst Troy Lynch. Troy, you're joining me now at the anchor desk. You're stunned, you're speechless, you're impressed.
Man.
I don't think I've ever praised you before, Troy.
No, I don't think anybody
only
has.
Negativity. Only negativity.
It's what makes me stronger, I guess.
Troy, plenty of negativity for you, but plenty of positivity around this Sun Devil hockey team. They've persevered through a lot. They've played well this year. They're coming off of a championship season, however. Tough to top that from last season. Have they been able to do that? Is this team as impressive as last year's?
Put it in simple words, no. No, they haven't, just because the rosters are so different. Last year, they had the big three, Colin Heckel, Danny McAuliffe, and ACHA Player of the Year, Cale Delinsky. They put up most of the offensive numbers for the Sun Devils, and then this year, they lost Ryan Ostertag, who was also a big part of the championship series. Last year, he has an upper body injury and has not been back since, but one person that I think can really help the Sun Devils out is Liam Norris' little brother, David Norris. And what Coach Greg Powers kind of describes David as, he's just a bigger version of Liam, and he's great. He's transferred from NCAA Division I American International College. He had 14 points with them in the first semester, and then in the second semester alone, only 6 games with ASU, he already has 12 points. So David Norris, he's going to be a huge part for the Sun Devils when they head into the national tournament.
You bring up, of course, Ryan Ostertag. He's out for the year, only played in a couple of games at the start of the season. Patrick Udez missed most of the first semester. Gianni Mangoni, he was hurt for much of the first semester with a leg injury. How have these injuries affected the Sun Devils and how have they pushed through it?
Greatly, because it's just everybody in a different position. And then Gianni Mangoni, you got him on the defense. He's just a great all-around defensive player, and the two things that he specializes in is blocking the shots and blocking the passing lanes. He does a great job at that, but then when he got injured at the end of the first semester, he was kind of the last guy standing, and they had to bring up Liam Hughes from D2 hockey, and yeah, he did his job, but he's no Gianni Mangoni. Then when we talk about Patrick Udez, probably the hardest worker on the Sun Devil team. He's extremely persistent on defense. He wins the puck along the boards. Very good hustle player on the offensive side. He works so hard. He makes the other team so tired that it just creates way better opportunities for the Sun Devils and for himself to score. And we saw that last week against U of A when he had a hat trick. And then let's talk about Ryan Ostertag, who, like I said earlier, he got out at the beginning of the year with an upper body injury. The first 2 games that he played, he already had 7 points. He is a scoring machine, and he did that last season. He's an assistant captain. Just losing the leadership and losing that scoring ability had to make players step up, just like Eric Rivard. So it's going to be tough without Ryan Ostertag going into the national tournament.
Now you bring up tournament time. It's not quite tournament season yet. You're unable to see the Sun Devils up close and personal. They're done at Oceanside Ice Arena for the year. The home slate is done. Still some road games left for this team, however. Troy, what should we expect for the rest of the regular season?
We're not going to see them up close and personal, and you're not going to see us up close and personal either, and everybody knows that it sucks, I'm sorry. But the road for the Sun Devils for the rest of the regular season, at least, is not going to be very difficult. They traveled down to Colorado, played Colorado State last night, beat them 7-3, and that was with their third-string goalie, Jordan Gluck. So if you can beat them with your third-string goalie, you're set. And then they play Colorado tonight, and they play Colorado tomorrow night as well. And yes, they took the Sun Devils into overtime back here in Tempe earlier in the season. But if you take a look at all the records, they're all below 500. Nobody's really standing out. So I think the Sun Devils are going to take all 3 of those wins, including U of A. And I think this is a good opportunity for Greg Powers to maybe put in some of the players who don't normally play and get them ready for the national tournament as well.
Everybody's ready. Troy's clearly ready as well.
Ready.
National tournament time, the Murdoch Cup coming up in the ACHA. Now let's send it back to Brett.
Well, now to the PGA Tour, where the last amateur to win a tour event did so 24 years ago. That man, a former Sun Devil nonetheless, is still swinging his clubs to these days, but even he didn't make the cut at last week's Waste Management Phoenix Open. The man I'm referring to was none other than lefty Phil Mickelson. Another guy, you know him, Tiger Woods, didn't make the cut either, and it wasn't even close. Well, how about this? Current Sun Devil and amateur tour player Jon Rahm did make the cut at last week's Open and proceeded to finish 5th, making him the first amateur to finish in the top 5 of a PGA Tour event since Chris Wood at the 2008 British Open. Wow. Currently the world's number 3 ranked amateur, Rahm likened the experience at the Open to being a gladiator, given the insane atmosphere on the 16th hole, where he even wore a Pat Tillman jersey to honor a great Sun Devil and to acknowledge the throng of fans in attendance for ASU. The 20-year-old could have collected nearly $240,000. This is sad, but because of his non-pro status, that paycheck will go to the next guy in line. Currently a junior, Rahm does plan to turn pro after college, and there should be many checks like this one coming his way in the future. Well, now that Jason's back in there and we're all together, it's time for a segment that debuted on the show 2 weeks ago. Our colleagues Jake Garcia and Mal Casillas brought you the first installment of what we're calling The Way It Is. We've made some cosmetic changes to the segment, and we're confident that those changes are going to provide you right now the best minute of a live sports broadcast of all time. We'll bring back Gavin Shull as well to help us decide a winner once we're done going back and forth in rapid-fire fashion for the next 60 seconds. The winner that Gavin picks gets 30 seconds of alone time with you, the viewer, to talk about the way things are. Let's go for it. Jason, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Jason, ESPNW this week named Charlie Tornerthorn their Coach of the Year at the halfway point, making her the first coach to ever receive the award before the season actually concluded. How remarkable is this?
Not at all.
What?
Let's get Charlie Turner-Thorne some real awards. She's the best coach at ASU. There's an award for you, Charlie. You're incredible. Brett, we so often deal with such serious topics on this show, but this might be the most serious of all. You cover ASU lacrosse, so please tell me, who has the best lax flow, that's hair for the folks at home, on the team?
Well, this is sad because I would say Adam Beecham, he's no longer on the team this year. Zach
Tragic.
Mathian. Zach Mathian's 12 to 14 inches of beautiful chestnut brown hair that ever so gently graced the back of his shoulder.
Wow.
It's fluffy, it's straight, it's weird. But whatever it is, it's beautiful. All right, ASU softball pulled off a 2007 New England Patriots a year ago when they went 18-0 before suffering their first loss, also incredibly to the New York Football Giants. Jason, tell me, when will that first loss come this season for the softball team?
Brett, do you know how many home tournaments the Sun Devils play to start the year?
85.
86,
Wow.
actually. Finally, March 5th, the Sun Devils have to leave the friendly confines of Tempe, Arizona. They face Michigan at the start of the tournament in Fullerton, California. Honestly, I think they get lost on the way there. They might forfeit. Now, Jon Rahm, he had himself a pretty good weekend at the Waste Management Open. You talked about that. And I mean, it's not like he won the thing. But still,
what?
He's a pretty impressive Sun Devil athlete. I'll give him that. But is he the most impressive of all time?
That's a tough one because you got names like Barry Bonds, Reggie Jackson, Jake Plummer, a European football star now, but
European handball.
Handball,
actually.
excuse me, even better. But it's an obvious pick here because you have to go Pat Tillman on the field, off the field, an all-time American, one of the best Sun Devils really ever, definitely the best, and certainly the most impressive, a better man than all of us. I covered the ASU hockey team last season. The ASU hockey team also won a national championship last season. Coincidence? I think not. Will Greg Powers' team be able to do it again this year without the help of, well, me?
Now, Brett, they did lose something. They lost you covering the team. But
Absolutely.
ASU hockey, they picked up something irreplaceably strong. They've got me covering the team now. It's an easy win. They'll win easily. Brett, we're ending things with a bang. ASU's newest social media celebrity, Tracy Smith, now apparently he also coaches baseball, who knew, is a gold mine on Twitter. But what's his best tweet?
No exaggeration, this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I'm not exaggerating when I say this, because this guy is a gold mine, like he said. Please go and read. I'm just going to read this one for you, though. Our country is dealing with war, poverty, unemployment, climate change, etc. And we've spent how many days talking about deflated footballs? And every time I read that, I just look, that's going to be my new motivation. Anytime I think life's great, I'm loving this thing, I got to look at that tweet and realize we're all doomed.
We are.
All right, guys, it's that time to pick a winner. Jason referred to me as a friend and a fellow matzo ball-loving tribesman. Brett is hair-obsessed and doesn't know that Europe hates American football. I'm going Jason.
The NFL Europe is dead, Brett. He's got a point.
Sad. I love my hair, though.
I did not say matzo ball loving. I never would. Now, it's college football recruiting season, the time of year where we pretend to care about second-string linemen and special teamers. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm not always the biggest fan of college football, but this time of year, that's when they get things right. See, college football recruiting means that TV analysts actually teach us things that we don't know. So you, the sports viewing public, you got two options here. Either learn from this recruiting season that we all love so much and hold media personalities to a higher standard, or just accept that they'll be like me and just complain and say nothing important. That's the way it is. Now, fewer things in TV news are more insulting than the term weather girl. People who forecast the weather, they're trained meteorologists. I have it on good confidence that our very own Megan Plain is well-versed in studying the Sun Devils sporting schedule, so here she is, our sportsologist with the weekend forecast.
Thanks, guys. We've got a lot to look forward to this weekend. Now, there's a big game tonight in women's basketball as number 10 ASU takes on number 12 Stanford at home. The Sun Devils handed Stanford its only loss in conference play and look to hand them loss number 2 tonight. Katie Hempen is a player to watch for ASU as their leading scorer with 12.4 points per game. On the Cardinal roster, we can expect to see big things from Bonnie Samuelson, who recently earned her 200th career three-pointer. While Friday night's game looks like it's going to be a close matchup, we see a storm brewing Saturday night as number 6 University of Arizona heads to Tempe. The Sun Devils lost 73-49 in January, and we can expect a similar blowout win for the Wildcats this Saturday. Things to watch for Arizona's leading scorer, Stanley Johnson, and Pac-12 Player of the Year candidate, TJ McConnell. ASU's Shaquille McKissick recently earned a career-high 24 points versus Oregon, and he'll probably be one of ASU's biggest weapons this weekend. Now, games aren't limited to the hardwood, and throughout the weekend, the Kajikawa Classic will be held, and in this forecast, ASU is expected to beat both Texas and Cal State Northridge on Sunday. After the loss of Dallas Escobedo and Mackenzie Popescu, this season's early tournament play will give us our first look at freshman pitchers Brianna Maha and Dale Rindak. Now, I'd love to talk more sports, but all I've got is what's happening this weekend, so I'm Megan Plain. Back to you guys at the desk.
Awesome job, Megan. Thank you for doing that for us. And now it's time for the part of the show at the end. We're about to finish everything off. It's our top plays. We begin number 3. We're going back out to Farrington Stadium, and this was the first clip we showed you, or excuse me, the second clip we showed you. Haley Steele with 2 on. ASU already up 1 and a 3-0 count. They send one, a big mistake, right down the center of the plate. She takes it over the fence for a 3-run home run en route to a 7-4 victory over Creighton for the Sun Devils.
A lot better punts to be made if Haley Steele is a speedster than a power hitter. I'm just saying. Number 2, new game we get to play this season. Name that Norris. It says at the bottom, Brett. No cheating.
Liam.
David.
Darn.
Brett can't read. David Norris had himself a hat trick against the Wildcats.
Was the second one Liam?
The second one was also David. The third one, fun fact, 6 seconds after the second goal.
The third one was David.
Once again, David. You're right, Brett. Good job.
All
I'm proud of you.
1 for 3. Hall
6 seconds of game time, not of actual time. That would be way too fast. Hockey's exhausting. You need to rest. And hey, we've got it in slow motion, so you know it was important. Feel free to throw your hats at your TV screens, folks. It still counts.
And for our number 1 play of the week, we're going to go out back to Farrington. Last night, here's Kerry Crowley on the call.
Kemp unloads on one high in the air, deep to left. This ball has a chance. Yes, ma'am. Bethany Kemp.
Down to 70 degrees.
Katie Aguirre steps in. She hits one high in the air, deep to right center. Aguirre launches one out of here. Yes, ma'am. Back-to-back on back-to-back pitches for Kemp and Aguirre.
Well, Jason, we're at the end of our first show, and I know I said in the beginning that for the next 3 months, every other week, you'd be to my left, but based on the way things have gone, you and Gavin seem to have something going here, so I'm not sure if I'll be back. Maybe Gavin's going to take my spot. I hope not. But
you know, Brett, we can go out. We'll get a nice bagel and cream cheese. We'll get there. We'll get to that point.
I feel included. Thank you, Jason. And for everyone in this studio, as well as Jason Chesler, my co-anchor, I'm Brett Deckert. Thanks for tuning in to Cronkite Sports Live today. Check us out again next week, same time, same place.